No, because what it does is it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I didn't know if you saw that. Okay. Hello, everyone. We are live. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is
But I'm you.
Okay. And today we are just going to chat. So if anyone is out there listening and you want to ask us any questions, we are willing to answer them. Well, maybe some of them. I don't know.
Yeah.
anyway, well, to start off, this is Saturday, and for you, it is Saturday evening. For me, I am just starting the afternoon. And how is your day going?
Well, today it's actually been a beautiful weekend so far for Scotland. This is crazy. It's been really nice. There is a breeze, so we took advantage tonight, and my wife and I went out a lovely walk along the River Clyde. It's very peaceful and quiet. The only thing is, you guys call them gnats. We call them midges. They're so annoying. And you're almost scared to talk because you're walking into them and you're like, did I just eat one? Like they're just horrible. So we had a nice walk apart from that, and then we went and grabbed some Chinese food, and then I've jumped on. So yeah, it's been a nice day. How about you? How's your morning?
Well, I will say that the video that you sent of you guys walking, it seems really peaceful. I mean, I take it that people ride their bikes and jog
Yeah.
and okay. All right. So how close is it to like the main road?
We live pretty much near. It's not the motorway, but the main road's just out. Basically, a 20-second walk across the road, and we cross that road, and there's a lane that takes us down onto this. We call it like a liney, where you're walking a pathway that goes along with the river. So it's very nice and picturesque, and there's people out fishing and camping, and we heard a few rowdy people probably having a barbecue and music playing. So like I say, when the sun comes out in Scotland, you know about it. There's always barbecues and people, yeah.
Well, my weekend is just starting. As usual, it's busy. My mornings are always busy. My son surprised me, and he is starting a YouTube channel, and he surprised me again because he started a company. so he's going to do this animation on YouTube. And I think I told you before, he had this character that he drew like when he was like 2, and then he kept drawing it, and now it's whatever. So now it's like this really nice thing. So now wants to do it, and he wants to put episodes onto YouTube. So that's what he wants to do. So he's been asking me about that. I'm like, you're the wrong person to ask me how to do whatever, because I'm asking him about TikTok and Instagram. So, but yeah, other than that, I look forward to my weekends because my weeks are always so busy. Weekends get a little slower, but just chilling.
Yeah. We went to see the new Batman movie last night at the cinema. And then we grabbed a drink. And the wife, she's been hitting the gym really hard this week, and she's really sore. She's overdone it. And she said, but as we were walking to the cinema, do you fancy going for an alcoholic drink after this? And I'm like, it doesn't sound like my wife. She's not really into drinking. And then she goes, I think I'll take anything to numb the pain. so she had a double rum and Coke, and I had a double Jack Daniels and Coke just to match her. But we sat outside again in the park benches near this pub that we like to go to now and again. It's got park benches outside with heaters, so we sat there for a good half an hour and chatted and again the film was really good. Although I don't know if you're familiar with the new actor who they've got to play Batman. It's that Robert Pattinson, is it?
He's the one who did the
Twilight.
Twilight. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've never seen
yeah.
not one Twilight, whatever. But
Neither have
I'm
I.
not into the. I saw the very first Batman
Hmm.
with Michael
Yep.
Keaton, I do believe it
Michael
was.
Keaton. Yeah.
But I'm not into the whole
No.
Batman thing. I don't,
Yeah.
it's like they come on, they come on.
Yeah. I was saying when my granddad was still alive, I used to tell him to watch the Christian Bale ones, the Dark Knight series is with Heath Ledger and Kristen
Mhm,
Bale, because I don't think you need to be into Batman and superheroes to like those films. And I think the same with this one, because they're
mhm,
more like, see, if you like crime, like
mhm,
CSI, murder
mhm.
type programs, you'll like the new Batman and those Batmans. They're more detective-y murder scene. It's not like craziness. It's more down. You know, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I know everyone's hating on the new Batman choice, but he did well, and I think you obviously know there's going to be a sequel and probably a prequel, a trilogy as well. But I think it's a really good
But
movie
you know
set.
what? Every time a new person is introduced to a new character, everyone's, I don't like that person. I don't
Yeah,
like that person.
yeah.
So I mean, that's going to happen. But the only superhero that I get into is I really like Wonder Woman. And I like
Okay.
I like the actor that plays Wonder Woman, but I have watched that movie over and
Yeah,
over and over. Um,
yeah.
you
I
know,
loved it too. Yeah.
yeah. So if I were to be a superhero, I would be Wonder Woman.
Okay.
So, and by the way, I want to mention because I know Juju had mentioned this. I like you in your ponytail.
Okay.
I like you in
Yeah.
your ponytail.
It's a change, and I got the sides shaved a little bit because it's neater. Because see, when you grow your hair out, and all the short bits curl out, and so it's a lot more neater now. But it's
So
just a change.
do you cut your own hair, or do you let someone
No,
else do
I've
it?
started. I started going down to a local barber here in Glasgow, and I've built up a relationship. I've got a funny story to tell. Last weekend, I got this done again the second time round because I got it done on my birthday, and then it started growing in. So I went back last weekend, and I'm sat there, and he's really chatty, nice guy, and there's only him and his assistant sweeping up this girl and me in the shop, and he starts asking questions. He remembered me from the first time and said, "Oh, how was your birthday night?" and all that. So he says, "What are you up to tonight?" And I said, "Well, I have my own podcast, and I'm actually part of another podcast with a lady that I met over in America, and we're doing voter ID tonight." And he's like, "Oh, wow, that's so cool!" And he's asking all these questions, and he says, "What's your podcast about?" And I says, "Oh, conspiracy theories." And when I say that to people, I kind of get, I'm like, right, I better just stop there. But with this guy, he's like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "So what you into? Like, how far do you go and all that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I go the full hog." Like, I was like, "Flat Earth is my favorite one." Wow, oh, cool. And you could see the assistant; she's sweeping up the floors and she's listening in. And he says about, we started talking about like probably what we're going to get onto tonight about politicians and how surely they're picked and not voted in and all that. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is that's what you would call blackpilled when you realize that everyone in the world, all the world leaders and politicians are all there because they're chosen. They're not voted by us. They're selected in other ways. And he's like, yeah. So she came over and she's like, that sounds an awful lot like a program that I've recently watched on. Is it called Scandal? It's been on Netflix or something.
Scandal. Now,
Yeah.
Scandal. I don't know. Do you guys get shows when they first come out? Like, do you get like
See,
the
I,
first?
I think I think you get them first. I don't know why I think that, but I just think you get them first, and then we get them maybe a month later. I don't know why.
Okay, because Scandal has not been on. Scandal was on network TV,
Okay.
and it ended, I think, 2 years ago. I think they did like 8 seasons, and then it
Yeah.
ended like 2 years ago. But my sister was really into it, and she says, if you want to see how who really runs the world, watch this show.
Hmm.
And I've only watched like 2 episodes because it was like a, a lead in to another show that I was watching.
Yeah.
But it was interesting.
Okay. In a good
So,
way, or you obviously disagree with it? I haven't seen it,
well,
so
I mean, I've seen like 2 episodes, and I don't like getting. I mean, there are certain shows that I watch, and it's like I have to tape them because I don't get a chance to sit down and watch them. And then, I
mm,
mean, literally, my DVR is literally at 1%,
okay.
and it never goes past 10% because I have to watch things to clear
Yeah,
stuff because I have so much stuff I haven't watched, because
yeah,
so I try not to get involved in another show because I know I can't sit down and watch
yeah,
it the first, time, whatever. So I watched two shows of it. I'm trying, and I started the beginning, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But then I just stopped, not because I didn't like it, just the fact that I did not want to get involved in another show.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so
I
have you
totally get it.
watched
No, but that's what I'm saying. She actually said, I don't think it's something you'll like, because she could tell that I'm straight away that obviously a lot of the mainstream stuff I don't get into because I think it's just a lot of nonsense. So I don't know if she was kind of being nice and saying, look, don't bother with it. It's a lot of nonsense for you. You already know that stuff or whatever. But like I say, I had a really good chat with them. They were asking me questions and they were really excited. And I mean, they might be listening to this when we upload this. So if you are, thanks, Chris, because what I'm about to say is I got a free haircut because of that. Because he ended up saying, "Look, it's okay," because he actually said, "How did you like your hair?" Because it was way down my back. If you remember in episode one or
it?
two, the immigration, and then on my birthday weekend, I got it cut, and it's pretty much just above my shoulders. And he said, "How did you like it?" And I said, "Well, to be honest, a little bit too short because when I put it up, some of the back hairs don't stay in." And he's like, so I don't know if it was that or the whole conspiracy stuff that he just loved. And he went, "This is on me," and give me a 25% off my next haircut as well. So
Well,
thanks again.
25%. That's decent. That's
Yeah.
decent. Okay. All right.
So it goes
So
to show it pays off to have these chats. And
yeah,
I
yeah.
actually I posted it on Twitter. I says, like, we just got a free haircut, and I says, you could call me the gardener because I'm always planting seeds.
You
Because
know, wait and see. Well, one thing that I will say is no matter what you believe or agree with, again, you're able to have a conversation with someone and it wasn't
yeah,
somebody yelling, screaming,
yeah,
whatever. And that's what I wish more than anything that people can get away from.
yeah.
Just the yelling and screaming and ready to take you out, you know, to the woodshed. And, I mean, just that stuff is just so not necessary.
Yeah. Well,
But
that's why you've had a lot of success on Podbean, and we talk often about other shows that have kind of implemented that format, or they're trying to, where you allow the person to talk without interruptions, and then you move on to the next caller. And a lot of people have really, me included, have. That's why we've stuck around your show, and your show has done well, in my opinion. You see the numbers, and you deserve all the credit you get. I've said it a few times because that before you came on the scene, Podbean was a bit, like I'd enter shows and it would just be a free for all or chatty shows where people would just talk. And I mean, that's okay for if that's what you want to do. But to me, I know there's a lot of people out there that are craving these kind of chats that we're trying to bring on Friendly Differences in your show,
mhm,
where we're trying to get to the bottom of things and trying to, anyone that's listening that has those kind of views that you were just talking about there, where people are ready to throw you in the woodshed and get angry and
mhm, mhm,
shout and leave the room.
mhm.
If you just sit and talk to the other person that has opposing views, you'll realize that you're not too far apart if you just sit and talk. And I don't think there's any shame in if you do change your view. If you go, well, I actually thought this and now he's made me think another way, or she's made me think another way, there's no shame in that. And I think that's something that I always say, you have to leave your ego at home when you're talking about politics or even conspiracies or anything, because it's a learning curve for everyone. It's not, we don't know everything. And, I think it's a journey that we're all on.
But even if you don't end up changing your views, it still comes down to, because I look at, when you turn on the news or whatever, and you see, I'm just going to use this as an example. Black Lives Matter. They're out there protesting. Then you have the Proud Boys come out. Then you might have another group come out. And everybody's waving their signs and everybody's yelling and screaming at each other. And you're sitting there just looking at everybody saying, okay, so you're yelling at that person. Do you really think they're listening to what you're saying? Because he's yelling at that person. And everybody's yelling and screaming. And then, someone gets mad and someone throws something. The next thing you know, you have this, whatever. So it's like, okay, if you want to protest, stay on this side of the street. If you want to protest, stay on this side of the street. And you all can still wave your signs and everything, but do you have to start calling people names and stuff? Because you're not going to see what someone else is talking about again. Everybody just needs to bring it down.
Yeah.
So
what about even like in my mind, why wouldn't a better idea be in the leader of BLM and the leader of the Proud Boys getting together and sitting down in one room and chatting? Like, to me, that would be a much better way of dealing with issues than the protesting.
True, but I do think that 100%. But I also think that a member of your group, a member of your team, would still want to be heard. So, just like when you look at these school board meetings that have just turned into these ridiculous where people are screaming and howling. Now they're talking about the whole, what are our kids going to learn? And everyone's screaming. You can't go to a school board meeting screaming at people. Can you just go up there and say whatever? And then someone has an opposing view, whatever, but to scream and holler and threaten and whatever, it's like, and did you get your way? I mean, can we just tone it down? Everybody wants their kids to do this. Everybody wants their kids to do that, whatever. Just tone it down and we can, So I don't know. But Mr. Bahram, I do have something for you. So, okay. So I know you do the same thing with your shows, but after all of my shows, I always go back and I listen to them, just to see, I could have said this or this person said this or whatever. Same thing with Friendly Differences. I go back and I, rewatch the show, which a lot of them, they just tickle me. But so I have come to realize that you have said on many occasions, and I heard it and I put it in the back of my mind to say something to you about it, but until we did the voting rights show, it really was like, okay, you are going to have to talk to him about this. You have made it very clear that you don't vote. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I have made it very clear that I do vote. Okay. And I am of the opinion, and I have said this before, that people who don't vote should basically, as I've said, shut the fuck up. Because if you are not going to vote, I don't care if they take your vote and they, as Michael Steele said, they threw it in the trash or whatever. Okay. The fact still stands is you still voted. You still try to take a stand. Mm-hmm. So, having said that, the first thing I want to ask is, do you think that, and I'm not talking about here in the US, I'm talking about no matter where you vote, do you think that for the most part, the intention of voting is to have a fair election? The intention.
The intention from the people.
Right, that when you go cast your ballot or however you do it, that the intention is my vote is going to count, and we're going to find out that Johnny got 5 votes and Sam got 6, so Sam won.
Yeah.
Okay. So my second question is, why do you not vote?
I in 2014 would have been the first time I would have ever voted. How old was I in 2014? Is 8 years ago, so I would have been 24, no, 25. Yeah, 25.
What
The
is
only reason I would have voted then was because that was the year I think that the independence between Scotland and England. Scotland wanted to become their own country and independent. And I took an interest then because I was a working man. Obviously, not that I wasn't before, but I was not interested in politics at all up until that year, because here in the UK we see, when you go in, when I went into my grandparents' house and my grandparents are watching, we have government, houses of parliament, you guys have Congress, so it's all these
Mhm.
men in suits and women in suits, and they're just talking, and it's, I mean, you have to admit, for young people, there's not a lot of young people that are interested, because it's boring. They're using big words, they're pussyfooting around. They don't never answer a question properly. That's the one thing that I've always thought is, when you listen to a news reporter ask a politician a question, they never answer it. They just pussyfoot around it, and they'll answer it in a long way that doesn't actually answer it. And then you see the Houses of Lords, which is like the retired politicians. They're all falling asleep in the Houses of Parliament while there's supposed to be a debate going on. So a lot of young people here in the UK, I don't think they would even know who the Prime Minister is, or what the two parties are called that are mainly in power in the UK, and all that. So that was what I was like. I couldn't care less. But then when the UK decided to have a referendum on independence between Scotland and the rest of the UK, well, I thought that affected me. I was like, well, I'm a working man. I work in the oil industry. Scotland's biggest thing is that they have a lot of oil, and I think we could have made it. I think England screw Scotland over. We only have a population of 5 million, and we
Oh,
have
really?
a
Is
yeah,
that all? Just 5 million?
yeah,
Okay.
a lot of Scotland is just derelict land and mountains. You only really have three major cities: Aberdeen, Glasgow, and Edinburgh, and the rest are little towns. And there are other cities, but really not a lot of population. Um, so I looked into it a bit, and I saw a lot of people saying like how we could have been like Norway, where the average salary for every person a year is like 60 to 80,000 pounds, or euros, should I say? Um, and we have whiskey, we have tourism, we have the oil. And England, basically, they have tourism, but they just take our oil money. So it's like they're pillaging from us still. So I'm like, I got all passionate about it and started looking into
Wait,
politics.
so Scotland is still part of England or part of
Yeah, well, there's Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland make up the UK. Republic
okay.
of Ireland are their own country. They're in the EU. Um, so Scotland have felt for I don't know how long that we've been taken advantage of. We could be living like kings, but we're being, all the money goes into one big pot, and then England take it all because they've got more population to look after and all that. So that's when I first started getting into it, and I would have voted, but I was actually down in England that week, and I hadn't registered for mail voting at the time, so you had to be in Scotland to vote on that day, and I was actually sent out on business for work, so I missed it. But so other than that, I've never really. And then I got into conspiracies.
Wait, hold on for a second. What is the voting age for Scotland?
Oh, I should really know this. I'd like to say it was 18,
Okay.
uh, the same as America. And I know, did you guys bring yours down to 16, or is that just
No, ours is 18. It's 16 for driving
okay?
and
So,
18 for
so I'm
voting.
sure it is 18 then, because I'm sure America would have been the ones that they were. I knew they were talking about taking it down to 16 at one point, but yeah. So to me, it's been like a couple of years where I looked into politics. I developed my belief system. I followed a man, a politician called Nigel Farage, who was kind of he was in charge of the party called UKIP, United Kingdom Independence Party, which was pretty much conservative, if not even further nationalist. And then I got into conspiracies, and then I like this is the majority of what I've got to say here, and why I won't ever vote. And nothing against people who do vote. Well, I kind of contradict myself, because one thing I want you to do, and anyone that's listening, and anyone that comes on our show, Michael Key, and anyone, if you're listening, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to be, because I'm not cocky enough to say that I'll never do this, but please look back at any shows or on the shows, and you can try and find where I am hypocritical. Like, to me, I feel like I am very what's the word? Very
Consistent.
consistent with my views.
Consistent.
Like, I'm not hypocritical. So, like, I'm not really good at remembering, but say like abortion, I'll stay true to the uh, morals, because to me, there's political issues that kind of swap and sway. Like, they're on the right for one thing, and you would think surely that would be a left view, and then but I'm very true. So sometimes I can sway.
But
I go
see,
with
this is this is okay, and I think, and this is another thing that irks me with you is, the whole left thing, leftist, whatever, because when you look at it, I've talked about the whole moral thing. You can't say your morals when you're out there beating up people, or you're out there, doing hate crimes, whatever. So you can't say, well, the left, is this, because you're saying that people on the left, we don't have any morals, and we do, So, but I understand the context that the context that you're saying it in, but at the same time, when you look at things, I mean, people do go back and forth. I mean, some people are like, you're just downright seriously. I mean, the other day you definitely said that the moon was green, and now you're saying that it's blue because everybody else is saying, that is blue. But you do have people who, like me. I mean, there are some things that I go left with. There are some things that I go right with, but I don't look at it as left and right. I just look at it like, I just think this, I consider myself in the middle. And I actually think most people are. I think most people are in the middle. You do have those people who are way right. You have those people who are way left. So for when you say the leftist views are people, so you're on the right, but a lot of us, to me, are in the middle. We may agree with some more liberal things. You may agree with some more conservative things, so that's why.
So what I'm trying to say there is, then I looked into philosophy for a few years. I listened to a philosopher called Stefan Molyneux, listened to his show every day,
Mhm.
and it really developed it actually learned me a lot about myself and why I am the way I am, like growing up and my mom and, all that kind of stuff. And then you start learning about morals and philosophy, and where, like, see how law and acts and statutes that our government pass, and even like down to like how they can get us on like driving without a seatbelt and things like, um to me, philosophy laws should be built on philosophy, not philosophy built on laws. And that's not how the world is run, and it's wrong. Because, for instance, the one that springs to my mind right now is my body, my choice. But
Mhm.
then that only applies to abortion. But the same people will probably then say about the vaccines, they won't say my body, my choice. They'll say, no, but no, because everyone needs to, and that's something that I push back on. And that's something that, when I said there just now, I'm very consistent in my beliefs, is I would say my body, my choice for everything.
Okay,
And,
but
and
if you say my body, my choice, then you're going to say your body, my choice over vaccines. Then you have to say the same thing for abortion. You have to say the same thing for, if someone feels that they want to terminate, whatever, they should be able to do it. If
Mhm.
you feel that you want to get vaccinated or feel that you don't, that is
Yeah,
your body, your choice. So it should go across the board. You do have a point,
yeah,
but at the same time, the same people who are pushing you to get vaccinated, on the opposite side, you have the same people who are saying you can't have an abortion. It's the same thing to me. It's just different subject, whatever, but it's still the same thing.
yeah.
So why aren't people who are, pro-life out there, blocking roads and stuff, and and protesting, whereas you have other people that do. So to me, it is the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
So,
and see, and that's what I think that's what a lot of people miss, that we're so busy arguing that, that you do look back and say, well, if you listen to what I'm saying,
mhm.
so all right. So before you go on, let me ask this then. So you think that Scotland should be its own country.
Yeah.
So if they had another vote for it, would you vote?
Yes. Well, uh, no, no. I have to stay true to my word, like I just said.
But okay, but are you staying okay? But when I mean, I think you can stay true to your word. But if it's something that will help you, and you know that it's right,
Mhm.
why wouldn't I mean, you don't even have,
Well,
if there's anything else that's on the ballot, you don't even have to vote for anything else that's on the ballot.
yeah.
Just vote for that and go
The
home.
reason I think I should probably go on and say why first, because the reason why I mean, you're right. That question there, my instinct was to say yes, because that's a different issue altogether. We're not voting for a person, we're voting for an issue. And but
Right.
this is why I have to retract and say no, I wouldn't. The reason why I don't vote, and I never will, and nothing will ever change my mind on this, and I know that's not normal, because I normally like to say, look, I'm open minded, and every show that we do, I will be open minded, but on this thing, I'll never ever change my mind, and it's because I've seen what I've seen, and I know what I know, and I have to go back to when 2016 and Trump took power. I knew nothing about Trump up until, other than that he was a big multi-millionaire, billionaire, whatever, and I didn't even watch that show that he was on. I knew he was in WWE, like, and he was building a golf course here beside us in Aberdeen. That was it. And when I saw the media reaction to this man, it almost like, this guy must be like Hitler. He must be like done something. But so I looked into that, and I listened to his inauguration speech, and I thought, this guy is saying some great, like, nationalism stuff that I aligned with. And at this time, I would have voted. Like, I would have, I was all indulged in
And when you
politics.
say you align with nationalism stuff,
Yeah.
what type of nationalism stuff?
Well, I've said before, like, I think in order to have a great country. I don't mean to use the word great, because I know it's but just a flourishing country with people earning good money, people living good. You need to you need to have a nationalism country first. Then once everyone's flourishing, everyone's in a house, everyone's earning a decent amount of wages, everyone's employed, then you can start helping other countries.
But the only problem with that thinking is that it's flawed, because when you have a country that does not have the ability to include everyone, that will always be flawed. That
How do, no,
thinking.
but how do you mean include? You mean immigration?
No, no, no. I'm talking about being inclusive in terms of race, in terms of, this person wants to live here, and just in terms of, I mean, if you want that, see, people say we can live together and we can do this, but if if you're looking at your neighbor because they're Muslim, or you're looking across there and they're like, okay, they're flying this Trump flag. So are they part of the Klan, or this person's
No,
black, whatever. I'm just saying that you have to be inclusive. You have to be able to do that. And America's not capable of being that way.
no, but when I say that, I mean the ship's already sailed, and who's in our country, and if I was to become president or prime minister tomorrow, it's who's in here are the nationals. If you're here now, the whole thing about nationalism is closed borders until we fix our country,
Okay,
and yeah,
so you're using the word nationalist where I would probably use the word citizen.
well, yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, just okay, okay,
Because
all right.
I wouldn't, you wouldn't go kicking out people that weren't from here, like, unless they were illegal immigrants. But I mean, if there's Muslims or any nationality or anything in your country at the time where you become a nationalist, leader, then you don't go kicking them out, because that ship's sailed. They're here now, and everyone in here that wants to stay here and tighten the ships and get, live a good life from now on, then that's it. You're all in on it. It's not, I think that's maybe a good point, and I'm understanding there by your comment that maybe that's why a lot of people were against Trump, because he was a nationalist, because maybe they thought, I'm not one of those. And I don't think that there was never going to be a case where I'm not speaking for Trump, but any nationalist leader would go kicking out people. It would just be
No, but
who's
you
here
also
at the
have to be, if you're going to go under that banner, you're going to have to be clear on who you include.
Yeah.
And that's where, and see, I think that's where the divide comes between the liberals and the conservatives. I do sometimes I do think that liberals take it too far. I am not in favor of illegal immigration at all, but at the same time, I think liberals are even if they don't mean it, they'll at least say it. They'll at least say, we welcome this person. The conservatives, you don't hear that. Instead, you hear somebody going, Mexicans, they're bad, they're bad hombres, they're nothing but rapists and murderers, whatever. That's what people hear. So next time they see someone who they think is Latino walking down the street, they're going to beat them up. You have Asians being beaten up. You're from China. I'm not from China. I'm from Thailand. I'm from this. I mean, it's like you don't even know. You don't even know who you're beating up. So I think that if you're going to use the word nationalist, you need to be clear on what you're saying, even if you're lying, because they all lie, but you need to be clear with what you're saying.
Yeah. So at that point, I would have been totally on for voting and all that, and I'd never gone into conspiracy, so I would have been, all about voting for whoever, but I just didn't. Obviously, our election was 4 years as well. I must have missed the 2016 one, and then in between the 2016 and 2020, I took the black pill. This is, when you get into conspiracies, there's the red pill. Everyone's seen the film The Matrix with Keanu Reeves and that, where Neo sits him down and says, "Look, there's the red pill, the blue pill, the red pill." And that film is so, it's so true in a way. It's a metaphor of a show, because it's basically, it's real, but it's not like we're all in our alternative reality and we're sitting in a bath full of goo, and that's not real. But it is the stuff about, like, the whole world around us is a matrix, and it's all designed to keep man and woman down, like keep us living paycheck to paycheck with council tax, mortgages, all this stuff. It's all to keep the man down, or I know I use man and women down,
right?
And taking the red pill kind of gets you out of that. It gets you into a different mindset where you look into things like 9/11, JFK. The red pill and black pill are kind of different, because red pill are kind of like they're kind of still, they give you hope. The red pill conspiracies give you hope, because it makes you think that, well, there are people out there fighting for us, and 9/11 was an inside job, and we can take these people to task one day and all that kind of stuff. But then when you take the black pill, which is something that not a lot of people talk about, and I actually stumbled across this kind of stuff. One night, the wife and I watched a documentary about, it's called Fall of Cabal. I'm sure you're maybe familiar with it. And the reason why was because my wife, I obviously liked Trump, and I was sharing some things on my Instagram at the time, and my wife being from California and her family back home still to this day, and I don't know if they're going to be watching, but I know they're going to hate me if I say this, but I liked Trump. I thought he was hilarious. I liked the things he was doing. I would defend him. And then one guy that kind of introduced me to philosophy back in 2014, 15, no, 16, sorry. He said something to me then that stuck with me, and it was about Zionism, and he said something about the world leaders and Zionism, and I kind of put it to the back of my mind. And then after watching that Fall of Cabal and bringing my wife round to my way of thinking, and she was so like, that night was just like a weight off my shoulders. She understood the things that I'd been going through by myself, listening to podcasts, watching documentaries all by myself, having nobody to speak to about this stuff and bottling it up. And then my wife one day asked me to show her, and I showed her that documentary, and she just was like, wow, I'm sorry. Like, basically, she didn't say she was sorry, but she's like, she gave me a cuddle, and she's like, I can't believe like all this stuff that's going on. And then the very next night on night shift, I went into work and scrolling on Instagram, and here's a picture of Trump with his hand on the Wailing Wall in Israel. And that comment my friend made to me back in 2016 came to my mind. I was like, Zionism, Israel, and here's Trump. And then I looked up Bush, Clinton, Bush Senior, Obama, Trump. They're all photographed with their hand on this wall wearing the yarmulke. And I went down that kind of, and now that's kind of the black pill stuff where you realize that all the world leaders, politicians, they're all, some people even say that every congressman in America has dual citizenship with Israel, like AOC and all
But,
these.
but don't you think that that's number one? It's a photo op. Number one,
It's a what?
and it is a photo op. It's just an opportunity to take a photo. It's a photo op. And number, I mean, most world leaders are going to go somewhere like and do whatever and say, oh, I'm so sorry, you're going to be solemn, whatever. You go to see the Pope, everyone's doing this, whatever.
Yeah.
But you're right when it comes to Israel, and I know I'm going to get pushback on this. I don't understand why America supports them so much. I don't get it. And again, that's not a left and right thing. That's both of them do it. Both sides do it. You have, I think in the UK, the people in the UK are doing it. I don't understand what is about Israel, because to me it's like Israel stole land from the Palestinians, treated them like crap, whatever. And I'm not understanding why everyone is like, oh, Israel, I don't get it. I don't get it.
That right there, what you've just said in the last 20 seconds, 30 seconds, that is exactly why. If you looked into what you just asked, you would understand. Like, and it is dark.
I mean, no, I have been against the whole Israel thing for, I think, probably since 2000.
Yeah.
Trying to think, Colin Powell, Bush, those probably around like 2006. And I've and even, and I look at, I'm like, what is it about Israel that every country has to go run and basically kiss their butt? I'm like, what? And you have all these other countries who are just as, needy, or they're trying to get independence, or they're trying to fight for this, or they're trying to fight for this, whatever. But Israel, what is it?
Yeah. So when I came across that picture, I kind of went down a dark rabbit hole, and this is the black pill stuff. Now, I quickly looked up the definition of black pill because I knew we'd be talking about this tonight. And there's a couple here, but I'll say like, the black pill is basically the alternative and the hardest to swallow out of the red pill and the black pill. It is about realizing nothing matters and that there is nothing you can do that will change anything. It depraves you of all positive thought and makes you want to get some sort of meaning out of this limited time that we have. It's basically nihilism. And I know that doesn't sound great, as if like I'm living this depressed life and all that, but to me, what they missed out there in that definition is since I've realized this stuff. Now, again, this is the kind of thing that I don't know if this show is even going to stay up for, because we've just criticized Israel. And that is a no-no. Like, anti-Semitism is a career ender. We talked a little bit about that in the very first show we did on freedom of speech, when we discussed
Mhm.
Joe Rogan and the N word, and then how I think Shy Lady brought up about Whoopi Goldberg and how her
Mhm.
career could be over, and how that anti-Semitism word is just a career ender, and it has all the power to do that, whereas saying the N word is just maybe a fine, or and that's why I'm totally on board with that, because I see that everyone kind of sees that the Israel stuff has all the power to do whatever it wants to do, but blacks get treated the same way, and it doesn't really have that same effect. So when I went down this path with Trump, I literally, and I'm not exaggerating here, but that night when I seen that picture of him, and I went down that for a couple of hours, I listened to some podcasts about Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, and all that kind of stuff. It freaked me out. My heart was racing, and I honestly could have cried, because I genuinely thought Trump, the full cabal narrative is that Trump's saving us from all the cabal, the Hillary Clintons of the world, and that they're doing all this sexual pedophilia stuff, and the Pizzagate stuff, and I was a little bit into it. I wasn't like submerged where it was taking over my life, but I did think Trump was fighting for us, and that he was fighting off all these people, and everyone hated him, the media hated him, and he was an outcast, but he was doing, and then I saw this stuff, and I literally could have cried. I just thought, I've just got my wife on board with my views, and it's all a facade. Like, Trump is no different. They're all part of the same team.
But see,
And
but to me, it's like when you look at somebody like Trump, you
mhm,
didn't have to go far to see that, as soon as he came down that escalator, it's like fraud, 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 fraud. I
mhm,
mean, just him as a person, and just, maybe it's because you're in the UK and you're here, but you hear the stuff over the years, his business dealings and things like this. It's like
mhm,
he's, to me, he's worse than most of them,
mhm,
and but the one thing that he was able to do
mhm.
that no one else was able to do is he has people falling over them like he's some god. I mean, I truly believe that, Trump is another Jim Jones, that for some of his followers, if he told them to drink the Kool-Aid, they would do it.
Yep.
So which is dangerous,
Yeah.
but again, but you are right, they are all the same.
Yeah.
They're all the same. Yes, Obama, okay,
Mhm.
yes, he's this, and Hillary, oh yeah, she's this. I am still a Hillary fan. She's still this, whatever, and Bush, and whatever. And when you go back and you look at Franklin Roosevelt, he
Mhm.
was one of the biggest racists. It was his wife. It was his wife who was the one who was pushing things, whatever. But Franklin Roosevelt, he didn't like us, But then you look at, Coolidge and all, and uh, uh, who was it? Churchill. Didn't he have a There was some scandal with him. But they
Winston Churchill.
yes, yes, but they
Yeah.
all have something. They all have
Yeah.
something. They all have something,
Yeah.
that they're doing. So,
Yeah. So I kind of learned about. You've heard me say this a lot, and I'm sure. I hope Petty Deb's listening. But
I actually invited Petty Deb to
yeah,
come on, and if she
yeah.
wanted to, you know,
So I started listening to this podcast called Black Pill Radio. Two dudes from America, and I think they're only in their 20s, maybe 30s. They're funny guys, and they talk about this stuff, about the Jesuits, the Knights of Templar, the Freemasons, the Pope, and all the darker stuff. Like, we see these, even the Queen of England, like, we see these people as just like do-gooders that go around the world to show face and all that. But you have to think long, long, long ago, and I genuinely believe that the people that ruled the world back in, like, the when Jesus was living, the Jesuits and all that, they still rule the world today. It's just rebranding. Like, that saying, Rome fell. Rome
mhm.
didn't fall. It just rebranded itself. And same with the whole thing about Germany, the Nazis losing World War II. They didn't. They just rebranded themselves. You know, the Operation Paperclip, where Werner von Braun was one of Hitler's right hand men. He came over and started NASA. He actually started
Mm-hmm.
NASA, and he was
Mm-hmm.
friends with Walt Disney. He was
Mm-hmm.
the main director of the moon mission in 1967
Mm-hmm.
or 69, is it? And then you had there was loads of German scientists that came over to America and all that. So they're not. These are like facades. They're like it's all a movie. We're literally living every movie that we've ever watched, like Deep Impact and the Contagion. You know, the film about the we're living every movie, and that's the way I can see it now. And that's why I'm saying I'll never change my mind, because these world leaders, they're all parts of those secret societies. Every world leader that is in power today in every country is either a Freemason, a Jesuit, a Knights of Templar, or Knights of Malta. They're all connected by those secret societies, which are all connected. They're not hating each other. Freemasons don't hate Jesuits, and Jesuits don't hate. They're all working towards the same purpose. And when John Kerry and George Bush were the two presidential candidates, both of them were bonesmen, skull and bonesmen. And I've only learned this in the last month, because I'm actually doing a show for Baa on Skull and Bones, and that was the first president election that you actually had two chances of a bonesman becoming president. Now, when you look into these secret societies, they're like fraternities. You know, you see them in teen movies where there are fraternities in universities, and if they do something stupid to join, and it's guys that look out for each other's interests and all that. That's what these things are on the lower levels. And when John Kerry and Bush was going for presidency, they're going to give the jobs to their friends. They're going to look out for their friends,
Of course.
and that's why I can never vote again, because Trump, again, when I sent you a podcast, I don't know if you've listened to it, but there's one podcast episode in particular that I've got saved, and I don't save many. I've maybe got 4 or 5 that I really, really appreciate, and I send to people to say, look, listen to this episode and tell me that I'm wrong. But that one where the Black Pill Radio had a girl called Amy, her podcast is called Amy Says WTF. She looks into all the deep stuff, and she done an expose on Trump about who his dad was, who his mum was. The two of them were his dad was a member of Knights of Columbia,
Now
and his mum was
I knew that.
Scottish Freemasonry, I think his mum
Mm-hmm.
was. Now he knew, like, and this is going to sound crazy to someone that doesn't know that, but I've said this to you before. I know you hate me saying it, and please, before I say it, I'm not saying it to annoy you. I'm saying it because this stuff is scripted. But I knew that Joe Biden was going to be the next president. I knew, like, you can put bets on it on the gamble. You know, I'm a big gambler. I like to gamble on the football and rugby and golf. But I knew, like, it's all written. It's pre-written. Biden was getting.
So let me ask this then. By you saying that you knew that Biden was going to be the next president,
Mhm.
do you think the election was stolen?
No, it's not. See,
No. I'm just saying, because I'm trying to because you're bringing this up, saying you knew he was going to be next president.
Yeah.
Because that could make some people think that there was a fix-in with votes or ballots and things like that. I'm just trying to bring this out there to people.
That's a good question. The reason why I was kind of stuttering about it, because that's kind of the big punchline to this. What I'm trying to say is,
okay,
the big punchline to all this is that our vote does not count. It's predetermined. Like, it's not that the election was stolen. You could have a population, like Scotland's got a population of 5 million, and 4,999,999 people could vote for one person, but the other person will still get the prime minister, because you cannot tell. You can't tell. They just need to say, well, 54% voted for no and 6% said yes. How do you know? And this is the thing, and I don't know how far back that changed. I'd probably go as far back to say that every president in America was selected, not elected. And the reason why I know that Biden was going to be president is because I did a podcast on my show again on gematria and symbology, which is my favorite topic. I don't know if you've listened to that one, but again, you have to go back to like the pharaohs and like the Jesus, like the BC times and all that, where the people that run our world were very religious,
Like then.
and the gematria stuff was a code, and it's a Jewish thing, Jewish gematria, where they have ciphers. So like the Pythagoras theorem cipher is that A equals 1, B equals 2, C, and so forth. But then when it gets to 7, which is the letter G, it goes back to H equals 1, I would be 2, J would be 3. So it goes in cycles of 7, and that's where you get your Freemasonic. You know, the Freemason is the G, and it's also 7. So I see there's people online that I follow, and there's a woman in particular called Susan something. She does paintings, but she debunks all this stuff. Like she puts out rituals on Donald Trump and on Joe Biden and on 9/11, and Joe Biden's ritual was 47. He'd been in office for 47 years. There's 47 degrees on the Freemasonic compass, 47, 47. It was all 47s, and it was his turn. He was getting his, finally, Joe Biden was getting his turn. And I knew this a year before the election, even, I knew he was going to be the nomination. I knew he was going to be president. And that's the same reason why I know, and this is the part I know you're not going to like, and I'm not saying it to annoy you, because I don't like this man either anymore. But Trump is going to be the next president. It's already picked. He's going to be the next one. And I mean, we don't need to go further on that. If it happens, you can go back and go, well, Baram, you did say that. And I'm not predicting any future. There's loads of people out there saying it. But even like he's on the golf course the other week there, and it comes up on my Twitter feed, and he's hitting his golf shot, and the guy that's recording him's going, there's your 45th president. And he picks up his golf tee and he goes, and 47th. And he's telling us, and that's what they do. They're predictive programming on us. They'll put out movies like.
See, and this is where I think that, and you are right, because I did see the clip where he said, and the 47th, whatever. And I think that's where you're right, because people are programmed. And I just want to just go back a minute to the election thing, because when you tell someone before any votes are even cast, and you keep saying over and over, if I don't win, it's because they cheated. Mm-hmm. I don't win, it's because no votes have even been cast. And you're already saying so. And the thing that's so amazing to me about that, where people actually believe that crap, is the fact is, so that's just like your kid going to school and saying, well, if you don't choose me, well, then that means that the person who if you don't choose me for student council, then then everybody else cheated, whatever. So and these people, it's like, are you all? And this is where I look at some of them, some of his supporters who believe this. I'm like, are you all really that stupid? Are you all really that dumb? That you are listening, because they are pre-programming you, and the only way to turn the program off is for people to get ahead of it and start putting out their own whatever and saying it over and over and over. But people like me, and I'm sorry if I come across as being a snob or whatever, but people like me, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit smarter than that. I can kind of see what people are doing, but I'm only one person.
Yeah.
But when you have millions of people believing, I'm telling you, if they don't make that car red, any other blue, if you drive a blue car, it's going to fall. It's going to fall apart. So nobody wants to drive the blue car because everybody's running to get the red car. And it's like, I'm sorry, guys.
Even Joe Biden's comment, if you don't vote me, you ain't black. It's
But even and I know you tend to come back to that, but it's like, again, on the other side, they've said a lot of other worse things than that. But Joe Biden, he was clamped down really fast by black people who said, whatever, you may be able to get away with that over here, but you're not going to be able to do that, with us. So they have all said, I mean, your shithole countries, and Hillary Clinton has said things, and hell, Obama has even said things, whatever. So everyone has said something. But
Yeah.
like you said, and you do this a lot, when you say they take that one clip, and you're taking that one clip of Biden and the whole black thing, whatever. But again, if you take something and you repeat it over and over and over, so it's like Trump can say he'll be 47, and people can say all you want to, but if he's programming people now, which I know this is what he's doing, you got to come back with your own stuff and reprogram people. So it's like,
yeah.
so,
So
but I don't know.
so that's what I mean by it might come across like I'm backing out. Some things you say on Twitter, like let's say the I think the Canadian, um, the trucker protest. I almost felt like you probably thought that I was being flimsy with my beliefs there. But for me, when I saw originally what the truckers were doing, and Joe Rogan done he displayed like a video with like some inspirational music, and it was so like, oh yes, they're fighting for what they're right, and I was all for it. And then I remembered hearing about like obviously the food shortages, and I'm like, well, no, that's not the right way to go about it. So I feel like I'm very consistent where I won't ever defend a politician, because I know that they've all got closets, skeleton in their closets, and they've all got
Mm-hmm.
things that they've said in the past by design. I think it's like, I remember someone showed me a video of Joe Biden talking to some military people. This was last year, or it was actually quite recently. It could have been towards the end of last year. And he was saying, "We don't leave no men behind," and all that. And this must have been while Obama was president, I'm assuming, because it
Mm-hmm.
looked like a fair while ago. And then what happens? He leaves American soldiers behind and pulls out of Afghanistan.
Well, this is what I think about that whole thing.
Mhm.
Biden has a habit of, and I think it's a really bad habit that he has. He has a habit of backing himself into a corner. He did it with choosing his VP. He did it with immigration, and to an extent, he did it with voting rights. But with the Afghanistan war thing, he backed himself into the corner because he was looking more on the date that by August 31st, we're going to be out of Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
He was so into that date that you're right. He left people behind. Had you guys sat there and planned it out and said, okay, it's August 31st, but we still have 5,000 people here. We still have 5,000 people here. We're going to have to extend it to September 5th, whatever. But he was one thing I noticed on Biden is he gets so focused on this is what I said. So if I don't do it this way, then people are going to think that I'm whatever. How many times have you all supposed to have done this and it gets pushed back here and it gets pushed back here? I mean, it happens in all of our lives. You're supposed to leave the house at 5 o'clock. You don't leave until 5:15, 5:30. Okay. But he did. However, you can fault him on that, but there were people left behind in Vietnam. There were people who were left behind in World War II. There were people, I mean, in all wars, people are left behind. The problem now is everything is so political. Everything is on YouTube. Everything is whatever. So people are saying, well, he left people behind. Everybody's being left behind some way, somehow. And we were in a war that we never should have been in the first place, that turned into a generational war. So yeah, Biden left some people behind, but at the same time, those people who were left behind never should have been there in the first place. And that wasn't Biden, that was Bush. Yeah. So if you want to play the blame game, then there's enough blame to go around.
Can I go back to something you said that I think I definitely agree with you, where you said how Trump is kind of fooling his fans, like fooling them all, leading them along the garden path. And that's something that I equally cannot stand, where I go into shows on Podbean, or I just can't stand listening to right-wing podcasts anymore, because a lot of them are along the narrative of Trump, like how I was in pre 2017, 18 when I found out about Trump. They're all, oh, he's going to come back. He's the only one that can save us, and all that stuff. And even like, I mean, I hope Michael Key's listening. I know he's provided some pushback on some of my beliefs, so I'd love to have a show with him one day where I entered his show the other week there, and he's doing a full show on Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, talking about his bank statements and his laptop. And like I say, this is how far out a touch I am, because back in 2016, 17, I would have been on top of that. Like, I would have known everything that was on that laptop. I would have seen pictures, footage that would have been leaked, whistleblower stuff, all this stuff that I believe they want you to go down these rabbit holes. Like, to me, and without sounding, Michael Key's got thick skin. We can chat, we're friends and all that. But to me, it's a waste of time. You're sitting there talking about Hunter Biden's laptop and bank statements. They want you to go down these rabbit holes to waste your time, and they want you to, like, do you honestly think that a bank statement can be leaked? Like, that's private and confidential. To me, it seems like that they're leaking this stuff out to get the patriots, the Trump followers, subdued. Like that QAnon whole movement. The main message that QAnon kept saying to all these people that followed Trump is trust the plan, trust the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Trump will be elected for the second term. Trust the plan. And all the patriots are sitting there in their homes just waiting and nothing. And I'm not saying go out there and do a January 6th, which I've got my own beliefs on that as well. But to me, what we've seen in the last 2 years with freedoms being taken again and all that, and I know you might push back on this part, but the patriots are the people that we need because they're the only ones, I believe, that have those.
Okay, but who are the patriots? Are the patriots who are the ones who put the sign on their chest and say, "This is what I am"? Because I think I am. I think there's a lot of patriots who are out there, but it depends upon what is your definition. Mm-hmm. Because a patriot, I mean, anybody can be mm-hmm. one. I mean, just like with Antifa, people say that Antifa, is a group. Antifa is a thought. I'm Antifa. It is anti-fascist. You're against I mean, I am. So I consider myself Antifa, but they've turned it into something that is not.
Mm-hmm. I could go into. I know it's a hard one to. It's dodgy ground to go over when we start talking about political issues. Like the Patriots obviously stand up against the COVID stuff, the transgender stuff, and that's dodgy ground to go over that because you don't want to come across as racist or homophobic or transphobic, anything like that. So I'll leave that out. But again, there is elements of that we should be standing up against, more so probably when our rights and our freedoms are taken because of those things.
But our freedoms have been taken, but people want to say our freedoms have been taken over the last 2 years. Hell, our freedoms were, in my opinion, were taken when Trump was occupying the White House. Our freedoms were taken when Obama was. Our freedoms have been taken every time somebody is in the White House. It's just that now, certain groups have tried to make it more of a political thing. Like, see, it's the left. No, the right. They were doing things too. So that's why I say that you can't. It's everybody. It's everybody, and it comes down to individual choice. What are you going to believe? What are you going to allow someone to do? How far down that rabbit hole are you willing to go? Yeah. And me, I'm not trying to go down the rabbit hole. I'll listen to you, but I'm not going there with you. I'll listen to what you have to say, but I'm not. And now it gets to the point where you go on some of these shows and people are talking about it. You just sit there and listen. You don't even say anything because it's not worth it. You just sit and listen. That's it.
So what I was going to say is that we'll leave that dodgy ground. And what I'll say is, and here's and I actually thought about this last night while I was watching Batman. So it's a good analogy to use. And it's exactly why the Patriots are being subdued, because Gotham is the world. Gotham is an analogy for the whole world. It's crime, it's corruption, and all. See, last night's show, I don't want to ruin it for everyone, but the whole storyline was that the Riddler,
Well,
he's
then
the
you probably should stop talking if you don't want to ruin it.
no, no, but without,
Or
without,
make
without
sure you
ruining
don't
it.
give a spoiler. Make sure there's
Yeah.
not a spoiler in there.
Well, I can say this, that the politicians were the main focus of the story, and the corruption, and Gotham was like obviously that's where the film's always set,
Mhm.
and that is what the Patriots are all for. Is when QAnon started. Now it did have its good points where it exposed corruption and Wayfair and Nexium and the sexual trafficking, the child sex trafficking, the Haiti stuff with the Clinton Foundation and no, I'm not just saying hey, Trump's got his stuff. I'm not going it's all the left, but there's corruption throughout all the politicians here in the UK as well. They've all got their dirty fingers in things. The other night, I know, was it Wield Cleaver pulled me up for saying that Matt Hancock was the biggest investor in the masks. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden there's a pandemic. We've all got to wear the mask.
Mhm.
And then Theresa May, our last prime minister, her husband owns all the rights to the cannabis in the UK. And she banned it from the UK. And now so it's like there's all these dodgy dealings going on. And QAnon exposed a lot of that. And now the Patriots were ready to put Hillary in jail. And I know you're obviously not going to like that, but that is a metaphor for pulling the system down because it's rotted to its core. The Federal Reserve, I don't know if you've ever looked into that, but it's
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
federal and it's not a reserve. It's a
Mhm. It
private company,
is. It is. It is.
Rothschild banking, and it's fiat current. It's fake, and it needs to come down, and it will come down. I think in our lifetime. I think that's what COVID's also set out to do is digital currencies and one world currency. They're already talking about doing that, and this is very exciting. Like our life, and certainly in my life, and I know in yours as well, we're going to see some crazy things. And the conspiracy theorists have known about this. The ones that are at the higher level, like I don't want to sound culty, but this is where Michael, I know he had to have a little dig about the snake venom stuff. Again, I would put that in the category of misinformation where they want to brand us all like Alex Jones. Alex Jones, they're turning the frogs gay. It's like anyone that says, like, if I go into a podcast and I actually had a good conversation with a skeptic who was trying to debunk everything I said, he tried to loophole me into saying that I follow Alex Jones. And luckily I don't. I've never followed Alex Jones. I've only ever listened to one episode of Alex Jones in my whole life, and I don't follow that man. But what these people will do is they'll lump you with uh, the frogs are gay, and they'll go, oh, so everything that comes out of Ian's mouth or Baramu's mouth from now on, we can just dismiss because he believes Alex Jones. That's what they'll do. So I know guys at that level where they've only just became awake because of the COVID stuff. And I also know guys that have been doing this for years. They've known about JFK and who killed him, and the Martin Luther King and the assassinations, and the Jesuits, the Freemasons, and the New World Order stuff, and how the world's going to look in the future. And these people all have a few things in common, and one of them is that they follow the Bible, and the other thing is, well, they believe in flat Earth. There are certain conspiracies that there are like deep dark ones that they don't want you to talk about online. You can be pulled off for, and the ones like 9/11, chemtrails, they're okay to talk about you because they're kind of like, well, we've got away with it now. But there are some deep dark ones, and to me, it's given me empowerment. I know I read out the definition of blackpilling, and it sounds very. I know you and Whatcast asked me about. Can you ever shut off and all that? And I often think that people must look at me and listen to me like. And I know I've got a friend who I work with who says just enjoy yourself, go out and have a beer. And I'm like, it's kind of patronizing. I hate when he says it because he obviously thinks I just sit and load my mind full of dark, deep kind of stuff and scare myself and I don't have a life, but it's not the case. I'm
No, I
actually
don't know. I mean, I don't think that I just think that, at times, I mean, I have not been to a movie theater in years, but when I do turn on a movie to watch and I know it's supposed to be something funny, and I just want to just watch it and just laugh and
Yeah.
just laugh.
Mhm.
And then that's it. I'm not trying to look for any saying or whatever,
Mhm.
whatever. Even if I'm watching a drama or something real
Mhm.
serious, whatever, I'm just watching it, whatever. But sometimes, that's what I'm saying. Just watch it and say, okay, whatever, and then that's it. So,
Yeah.
but no, I don't
I'm
think
just
that you have all these dark things going on in your head where no, I
yeah.
don't, I
I'm,
don't
I'm
think
just laughing because I see my friend Mitchell in the chat there. He's saying, "I and how many times have I told you to take a day off?" Because me and him often go back and forth on Telegram, where I'll send him some symbology in a movie or something, and he'll go, "Oh, you're digging too much there. You're looking too much into it." And I totally get that. Sometimes I've been wrong. Often I've been wrong, but there are times I'm right. And I think when you do things like predict Trump being the next president, or the one that I became. I think I woke kind of Mitchell up. I don't know if he'll appreciate me saying this, but when I was in a group chat with him and a few of my other friends back home, the one that kind of spurred their attention on was because I predicted that there would be a terrorist attack or a shooting or something on March 22nd last year. And we woke up on March 22nd and there was the Boulder shooting. And I don't like saying that because it sounds like I don't care about these people's lives, but it's predicting these things to kind of wake people up, because I know that every 322, and here's the secret, and I don't know if I've even told them why I knew that, but 322 is the Skull and Bones Day. On the Skull and Bones emblem is the skull and crossbone, and under it's 322, and it refers to a Bible verse 322.
Mhm.
I can't
But
remember it off by heart,
but
but every 322 there's a terrorist attack, or there has been, for the last few years anyway.
okay, but the thing, I mean, and I get that, but at the same time, you can say every July 4th or every day for this, I mean, people are going to use certain days
Mm-hmm.
for certain things to make a point. I'm going to do this on January 1st. I'm going to do this on April 5th, whatever. People
Mm-hmm.
are always going to use those days to do whatever. So I don't necessarily think that it's predicting
Yeah.
things, whatever. But like you said, March 22nd. But unfortunately, we live in a world where you're going to have some nut who's going to take a gun
Mm-hmm.
and go and shoot everybody,
Yeah.
or want to throw a bomb here, or want to get into a plane and crash into a building. But then again, during World War II, you had the kamikazes who were crashing into ships, to battleships or whatever they were. So that's
Yeah.
why, and yesterday on my show, Saba was on, and it just got really, 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 really deep, just really, really deep. And we ended up talking about creation and things like that. And just from the beginning of time, you've always had people who were fighting against each other. Cain killing Abel, Adam and Eve, whatever. It's just since the beginning of time. That's just the way we are as a human
Yeah.
race. And unfortunately, we are. I think Crucible Man asked me, "Are we evolving or devolving?" And I said, "I think we're devolving."
Yeah. What
Because
can I push back on something you've said that I've been dying to push back on you for? Uh, this whole thing about, you've said it so many times, and I don't like it because it's a very nihilistic viewpoint, and especially from a religious woman, you should not be saying this. But when you say that God should just wipe us out and start all over again and put animals to the top. Now, the animals to the top, I'm not that part, but the whole wipe us out, because that's not a
we,
nice
we
viewpoint.
actually talked about that last night too.
Did it?
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was brought up. Do you feel whatever? What I mean by that is, I think that, okay, I believe in the Bible.
Mhm.
I believe God created heaven and earth. I
Mhm.
believe God created us in his image. And I was called out last night saying, so if God created us in his image, well, then why would he want to wipe himself out?
Mhm.
Okay. And I must admit that question caught me off guard, but I was able to answer it. I think that God created us in his image, where he looks like you, he looks like me, he looks like a dog, he looks like a cat. This is what I think. But I also think God gave us free will. He allowed us to, okay, I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you the ability to do this. I'm going to make you a doctor, whatever. I'm going to make you a nurse. I'm going to make you a scientist. He gave us these abilities to do things. You have Einstein, brilliant, gave him the ability to do things. He helped make, but he took his ability to create a bomb. So it's like, I think that God is sitting back saying, for thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years, I have given you guys things. I have given you guys all these opportunities. And I'm just sitting back and I'm watching what you all are doing. And I think God is disappointed. And I think God, and he did this when, if you believe in the Bible, if you believe in Noah and Noah's Ark, he said 2 by 2, whatever, he wiped out humanity. He did. He wiped everybody out and he started over. He chose Noah to be the one who was going to, help restart things. But he did do that. I think that when you see these wars, that's another reset. I think God he's telling us, you all, okay, I'm giving you free will. You're choosing to go bomb another country. You're choosing to do this. I think that he is at the point, and again, I don't know God to the point where I can say, God, what are you about to do tomorrow? But I do believe that there's a disappointment there. And I think that we are pushing it to the point where we have missed so many opportunities to get it right that God does need to just do another Noah, wipe everybody out.
No, but then that would mean wiping out innocent people, and that's the part I had to push back on. It's like your nihilistic view, or I would say, I mean, that word I don't even know the proper definition of, but I believe it's like when you've got no hope and you're just down. That you're. I'm not saying you are, because I know you're not, but that view comes across to me like you're letting those stories of people shooting up schools and all the evil that goes on in the world. You're letting that clog your brain and go, everyone needs to be wiped out.
No, because when I look at it, because when you take, if you take a shooter who gets on a bus and because he had a bad day, because he got fired, instead of going to the person who fired him, not saying that he should shoot him, but instead of going back and saying, well, why did you fire me? Instead, you're going to go to a bus full of people, and innocent people are dying anyway.
You know what I see when I hear of a shooter? I think government failure. That's what I think.
But government, okay, but again, that's where I come back to individual choice, because the government did not tell you to go get a gun and go shoot somebody.
No,
the government did not tell that father to come home one night. He's so pissed off at his wife that he kills his wife and his 3 kids. The government didn't tell them to do that.
No, but government and I know you hate when I blame media and I blame government for everything, but it literally is, to me, the one purpose of government is to govern us and look after us. And when any crime happens, there's a failure of the government, and it could be the mental health aspect. They failed. That guy needed help, clearly, and he chose to do that awful thing. But the government should have had options for that guy. A lot of the issues in our world are down to the people have no hope. They feel that they're better off away, and that is government failure. The reason isn't because people don't. A lot of the time, okay, there are people out there that just don't have a bone in their body that thinks, I'll get up in the morning and I'll try. Yeah, there are those people, but there's also a lot of people that are feeling trapped and feeling that there's no help, and that they're stressed, they're depressed. We had Green Sunrise on the other night about, and I'm really excited to do that show on depression and suicide. That's a huge problem. Probably what the biggest problem that our world is facing is suicide. And
go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I put everything down to government failure, because the fact that I can't earn enough to eat, like, it pisses me off even that you fill your fridge and it's all out of date within a couple of days. Or I even like think about there's supermarkets here in the UK. One's called Waitrose and one's called Marks and Spencers. I don't know if you have them in America, but they're like the posh supermarkets that, to buy a packet of apples, you're probably about £3, whereas in the local, you guys have Walmarts and
Mhm.
maybe a pound, but these
Mhm.
apples are so juicy and succulent and organic. But we have to shop at the basic ones, and God knows what we're putting into our bodies. But it shows you if you have money, you can eat well.
Okay, but
And
don't you also think that the people who are shopping, I mean, because we have things like Sprouts and Whole Foods,
Sprouts,
whatever, that
love
are
Sprouts.
expensive as hell. I only go to Sprouts for one thing, and that's for fish, because they have fresher fish, as opposed to some other places. But you go to these places, and I was thinking about what you just said, because I'm looking at the produce and I'm laughing at how expensive it is. Then I go down to my local, Ralph's, or even if I went to the Walmart market, I'm looking at these apples or oranges or whatever. They look exactly the same. They're exactly the same. So the people who are shopping at these posher stores, you all are
Yeah.
the ones that are getting fooled, because I do think that they
They
are
won't.
the same.
They won't be the same. They won't be. They'll be grown in farms with GMOs and pesticides sprayed on them.
That's
That's
why you should have gardens. That's why if you are
Yes,
able to have a
yes,
garden, because I've had it. This is what, my seventh year with a garden that is doing
yeah.
really well. And granted, I am in Southern Cal, so the weather does usually in my favor, but there are things you can grow in the house and grow your own. I mean, very rarely do I go to the market anymore for any type of
To
vegetable.
to me, that's one of the biggest red pill moments that you can base it, like a basic down to earth one that everyone will understand, to get them started on conspiracies, is tell them about food, like food and water. Like like there's people here. I'm getting videos sent to me all the time on Telegram of the water that flows through our taps, and people are showing you what is in that water, and they're distilling it, buying an industrial distiller online for. I got one sent the other day. It was I think it's like £300, which is probably about $450, $450. And this guy is showing you what the debris and rot, like stuff that comes out of this distiller, and we're drinking that. And I know the whole conspiracy around water is that they put fluoride into the water system.
Well, I know they put them in
Fluoride,
there. Yeah.
it rots your teeth, it rots your pineal gland in your brain and all that. So why are they doing that to us? Why? Why are they spraying? Why is Bill Gates and Obama, and I know because it was in Obama's time, but I know Trump renewed it and now Biden renewed it, but Monsanto and the whole spraying our fields with pesticides and GMOs, and we're eating that. It's a slow death, and no
It
wonder
is.
it
It
used
is.
to be.
That's why cancers are up and
Yeah,
everything.
that's what I was going to say. I always ask my. I think I've asked her this twice in the last 4 years because I forgot the first time. But I was like, see, when you were young, Nanny, how many people had cancer? Like, how many people got cancer? Did you? She goes, oh, I think if you heard about maybe one person
Mhm,
once a year, maybe like, or it was
mhm,
maybe on the news, or
mhm,
like, and I'm like, wow.
mhm,
And now it's like 4 out of 5 people will
mhm,
get cancer.
mhm,
And yes, phones, the radiation from the
mhm,
phones, and food is a huge,
mhm.
huge
In fact, when
reason.
I was talking to Saba yesterday, I told her, I said, very rarely, and I mean rarely, when I talk on my cell phone, do
Mhm.
I have the phone up to my ear. I usually have it on
Yeah,
speaker. And even if I'm like in the store and I'm talking, I'll have it on speaker, but I'm kind of whatever, because I don't like putting the phone to my, because I do believe that there's radiation,
oh
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
but
But
anyway.
but it's that kind of thing that I'll say this to my nanny. I go up there once every couple of months and I'll stay for the weekend. And sometimes we get into it. And I when I'm talking to people, and like you're doing now, you're like, oh yeah, I agree, I agree. But then to me, there's a lot of people in the world, and I'm not hating on it. Like my nanny does it, and I'm sure you might do it as well. But you'll understand that while we're talking about it. But then you'll go away and you'll just forget about it. It's like you hold them accountable. All people should be marching down to their governments and standing there saying, why are you putting this in our food? Why are you putting this in our water? We're not moving until you change it. That's how the
No,
world
no,
should
you're
be.
right, because I'm pretty sure you've heard about Flint, Michigan.
Yes, yes.
And and again, one of my friends, she sent me a comment. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. Biden sending $800 million over to the Ukraine. Meanwhile, the people in Flint, Michigan, for the last 10 years,
Yep.
12 years, whatever, 20 years probably, are still drinking or have
Yeah.
water that isn't clean. They still have to, get bottled water, whatever. So, but we are at the 129 mark. I didn't think this was going to go an hour, but again,
No,
this
I've
is
enjoyed
why I
it.
wanted to do a show with you. This is why I wanted to do a show with you.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes
I
my
enjoyed
bestie
tonight. It
can
was good.
get on my nerve, but and irk me,
So
but okay.
can I ask if I swayed you in any way at all?
You have, can I take the word sway out and use the word enlighten?
Okay.
Okay, you have enlightened me on a couple of things that I am going to
Mhm.
look
See, what
into,
I will say,
whatever.
I'll give you props for this because I know you said how the black people had to fight to vote, and now you will vote because, and that's honourable. I like that. I'll never take that. This is one thing I'll never tell anyone that they can and cannot do something. But when you ask me the question tonight, obviously I'm going to give you the reason why I will never
Mhm.
vote, and why I feel that it's to me it's a waste of time. To you, I understand that part of it. The only thing I would say is like, and I've said this to you before as well, is one thing I will push back on you is people like Hillary, Trump, Biden, the next person. To me, the reason why I do push back on that is you have to be true to yourself. Like, Hillary's got dirt on her, yet you would vote for her tomorrow. Why would you put yourself to that standard? Like, why would you
I
lower yourself to vote for an evil or corrupt person? Like,
Okay,
just
but when I'm looking at, again, I said that I'm going to vote. Like I said, I don't care if it's the dog catcher, whatever. I am going to vote. When it gets down to lesser of two evils,
Mhm.
and I have to look at who I mean, because both everybody out there, no matter who, that's what I have to look at. When I look at, if in 2016 Hillary was running against Trump, there was no way in hell that I was going to vote for Trump. I just thought that Trump was just so many things that absolutely not,
Mhm.
absolutely not. That's like no. So, but for Hillary, she was the lesser of two evils. But I also thought, when I also vote, I also look at who do I think is more, how do I want to say this? Who is more qualified in the sense that foreign affairs? Have you done this? Do you understand this? I mean, when Trump occupied the White House, he was so against Obama that Obama left him things there to help him, say that if when you're, and Hillary Clinton did, no, Jim, yeah, because Jim Kerry was for the second term, left things for the State Department, that when you have, security, and if you're going to do things where you invite people overseas, or if you're going to go overseas, you just don't say, okay, we're going to jump on the plane and go. You have to make sure that your security. He didn't know any of that. He didn't know, and all the stuff that Obama left him, he threw away, and he had all his friends, whatever, come in, and they knew nothing.
Mhm.
So whether or not you think Hillary's corrupt or Obama's corrupt, whatever, but do you at least know what you're doing? I mean, do you at least know, at least an outline? And that's what I say. Again, when for 2008, I wasn't going to vote for Obama. A lot of people assumed that I would because I was black. I was not voting for him because he was the black man, whatever. I was voting for McCain because I thought he was the most qualified.
Mhm.
So I'm not voting for somebody because of their color, whatever. I'm looking also at who do I think is the most qualified and who do I think is maybe, just maybe going to help us out just a little bit, because none of them did. Obama did not do anything for us. So when you ask me that question, I'm voting on who I think is the lesser of two evils and who I think is the most qualified. So people want to push back on me on that, but considering someone who is going to vote no matter what because of what my people did for me, this is what I'm left with, and I'm not left with much. So I got to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad you explained to me. I understand why you don't vote. You feel like this. I was putting you in the Bernie supporter category, but I'm taking you out of that but you understand what I meant with them when they complained that Hillary.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. I
Hillary.
was going to say I'm far from a Bernie supporter, obviously, with this.
Right. So that's where I was putting you, because they're like, oh, Hillary didn't get the nomination. Well, did you? And then they come complain about Trump, and they didn't vote. So it's like what you did was you were going to vote, or maybe you. And then that's another thing. It's like even if Hillary didn't get the nomination and Bernie did, honestly, I don't think Trump still would have won, because Bernie people would not have gone out to vote. They would. They just wouldn't. So the whole, and even the AOC crowd and all that other stuff. It's like, yeah. So yeah.
Just to add a final point, right? Because I didn't actually say this, or I don't know if I made myself clear for the listeners, or even maybe you don't even know how deep I think this goes. But this is the word that I always struggle. Is it I know, or I believe, or I'll use the word believe. I believe every world leader. I believe Putin, Trump, Biden, Hillary, they're all friends. They're all calling each other, or they're all in Skype and Zoom calls, and they're literally acting like there's not hatred between Putin and Zelensky right now. They're on the same side. It's all a facade. And this is something I do want to look into, because I've heard this so many times over the last 5-6 years. There was a girl in America, and I think she was 12 years of age, and she did a study for school on all the presidents of America, and she was able to trace them all back, and that they're all related, bar one. And I think it's the one that has like a Dutch sounding name, Van something.
Van Buren?
Yes. I think he's the only one that's not related. Trump, Obama, Bush, obviously the Bushes and the Clintons, but even back to Jackson, they're all related. They're all like, seemingly Hillary and Trump are third or fourth cousins, and that they were each other's weddings, and that they all are connected to King John. He's very prominent in all this stuff. So that shows you, and it makes sense as well, because before government you had monarch, and now monarch was all related. So why wouldn't they keep the power within? Why would they allow the chance of a rogue person like me being voted by the people and getting in and doing things that wasn't what they wanted? They wouldn't do it. They would keep it within.
Well, that is, no, you have a point. And that's something maybe we can ask Mary Trump, because I am seriously going after her, because I want her to come on our show. There's a couple of things that I'm doing that may not be that may be unorthodox, but
awesome.
Mary Trump, if you happen to listen to this, we would like you to come on.
Yeah.
So
that would be interesting.
But we need to wrap this up. So this has been a good chit chat as always. And
this has been my favorite chat, I would say. My favorite podcast
between us, or just overall.
All. This is the stuff I love talking about. I know I didn't want to come across as this is the Baa Why show, but see, when you have these chats, even like the part where we're talking a little bit about food, I love that. I love
that's fine. This is what it is. We're, giving everyone.
Because I know people might look at me and go, oh, he believes in flat earth and he believes in all that stuff. that I'm crazy, and I've got thick skin, so I'll have these chats. I'll take it. But to have these chats that are kind of grounded, where you talk about food and you talk about politics, conspiracies, and all that, I think people hopefully listening, if you enjoyed tonight and you enjoyed listening to us, please comment in the comment section, and I'll certainly get back to you, because I'm an open book. All I want to know is truth. Like, it's, why we get into this stuff. I think everyone searches. It probably starts with the question, how did we get here? What's the meaning
Mhm.
of life? What happens after death? And that wasn't the one that got me. I stumbled on it. Someone asked me a question and I was like, oh, and then, but it wasn't about that. But that is also encompassing. It's like religion, politics, conspiracy. It's all one big journey that I'm on. And I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years, pretty much every day, because I listen to podcasts pretty much every day. And that's where I get most of my knowledge. And if someone sent something to me that kind of showed me a different way, I would look into it. I'm not one of those people that are so one way and wouldn't change my mind. Although on tonight's episode, yeah, I am, because I think it's too obvious. When you know that they're secret society members and they have to swear oaths and it's something they take to their grave, then they cannot they cannot go against the grain. So they're not going to do what's best for the people. They're going to do what's best for the agenda,
Right. Okay. All right. Well, on that note, everyone, if you happen to listen to this, please follow us on Facebook. And we will be uploading more episodes on the Facebook. Been really bad about that. YouTube, Twitch, and we are going to hopefully be streaming live, hopefully by the next show, on TikTok and probably Clapper. Working all this out. So we welcome your comments, good or bad, because we want to know what everyone thinks. So on that note, everyone enjoy the rest of their weekend.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Catch you later.
Bye.